Hey, peace and blessings. Good morning, family. We're back up in here again. We're going to interview this couple for about 30 minutes and talk about basically black marriage. I'm very excited. They're an older couple, so we're trying to get the technology down with them. I think we got it, though. I think this is going to work. So we're just going to try this again. That's why I haven't really started inviting people. Peace, Sister Jill Muhammad. So basically, this is a part of a series, and I'm doing where I'm interviewing black couples for 30 minutes. I have like 16 questions, and these questions is to look at black marriage, what's their thoughts on it since they've been married for a while. And so this is like my third interview. I'm interviewing young couples, older couples. I just think we have to put out there what we want to know. So I work with a lot of young people, older people as well. And some people don't know anything about marriage, or they have seen examples that hadn't been positive. And so this is my idea to, I think this is the people I want right here. Okay, bam. Wait a minute. No. Is it? Oh Lord, y'all, I'm sorry. I'm trying to add some on here, and so I'm trying to. Yeah, that is the person. Let's try that again. Okay, so I'm trying to bring them on, and so I have these questions that I'm asking for like a 30-minute interview. So once they get on here, then I start with the timer, and I start interviewing them for 30 minutes. Because there's some things I think if you want to know about marriage and successful marriage, or if you're thinking about getting married, a lot of people who are thinking about getting married, I feel like we have to. Go to people who that's their life. That's what they do. That's how they live. And I think that's very different than taking other people's opinion of what they think marriage is about. So that's one of the reasons. Okay, they're connecting on, y'all. Yay! You're on.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yay. So,
we're here.
Yep. Okay, good. I can see your mirror. I can see a little bit of your husband's face. So hold on. Let's see here. There you go. Okay, bam. You're there. You're there. You're great. I can see you both. Yay, I'm so excited. So peace, family. So I am here. Say your last name correctly so I can make sure I'm saying it right. Is it Sabree?
Sabree.
Sabree. Okay, I was close. Sabree. So I'm with the Sabrees. And we're gonna talk about, so I'm doing this series on black marriage because I work with a lot of young people, also with older people as well, some who've never been married or maybe they didn't have a great marriage, whatever. But I feel like in our society, you don't get to see black men and black women with each other, especially in a lot of social media or in commercials. And so I wanted to talk to married couples and ask them a series of questions about marriage because you guys been married. How long have you all been married?
Oh, wow. How long was it? We've been together 41 years and married 38 years.
38 years. Wow. Okay, so my first question in the question around marriage, what does marriage mean to you?
Wow.
It's a good community builder.
Right on.
Friendship, nation building, fun.
Mm-hmm. So you said marriage, it's not a type on here to people. Marriage is a good builder, community builder. That's the first thing I would say. So when you were growing up, what were your thoughts on marriage when you were younger?
I don't think I thought about marriage when I was younger. I mean, I saw my parents together. I saw my aunt and uncle together. I don't think I actually put any real thought into it until I was probably a teenager.
So before that, you were just observing, and my parents were married, and they seemed to get along. They didn't holler at each other or act crazy. They seemed to function good as a unit.
Right on, right on. What about you, Mama Kosawa, your family in marriage?
Yeah, my parents were hardworking. They had a lot of social friends. I remember them having pinochle parties and having couples over. And she belonged to Eastern Star. He belonged to the Elk. So they were very social. They were very active in the community. And so I never really thought about their union, I just lived it. I don't know if that makes sense to
Yeah,
you.
and later on, now you
Yeah.
look back on it.
Yeah, when I look
But
back
at the
on it, it's like,
time,
wow. Yeah, I was blessed to have harmony in the house, no really discord. So when I did think about marriage, which wasn't until I was about a teenager, it was sort of a good thing to participate in.
Right on. So, how did you both meet each other, and when did you know you both wanted to marry each other?
I was teaching at a African free school, and Kosovo was one of the parents, and we met. I think it was at a school meeting, and then later on, some other school functions. We came in contact with each other, and one thing led to another.
Right. Yeah.
So how did you
So,
know you wanted
yeah.
to marry her, though?
Well, I knew I wanted us to be a unit, and I knew that the children needed a unit.
Right. Both of us actually have been married before, as teenagers, pretty much. So when I met him at the Thalmasasa Independent Free School, I thought he was kind of cool, but he didn't really fit all the criteria that I thought he should have, which I think is kind of interesting. So we met at the fundraiser for the school. We went out to concerts and just sort of hung out as friends. And initially, when he asked me, I was like, I don't know. But he was persistent. He was a good guy. So all those things that I thought I needed to have, he presented other things which turned out to be really good things to have in a husband.
Wow. So, what are some of those things? Because the next questions around criteria, you basically hinted on that. I don't even, some of these questions I don't even need because you're answering them. So, people always, like you just said,
Okay.
I think he needs to have blah, blah, blah. But when you got together and you started building the unit, it was like you didn't even need that. But what are some of the things you think that the things that you have in your marriage that's like, that's a criteria I needed. Maybe I didn't know I needed.
Common goals, values, looking at things similarly.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, dedication to nation building, um, the respect for family, being very loving. Initially, my things was, I didn't want anybody who smoked cigarette or ate meat or, drank. So all of those things sort of fell by the wayside because he stopped smoking and he stopped eating meat. So those are like, uh, I think, superficial things. So the deeper things was that he was respectful, he was hardworking, he was dedicated to nation building and our people, and those were very attractive things for me.
Okay, so with that being said, how did the children play a part in your marriage?
well, they have a lot to teach the adults.
Right.
Things like
Right on.
patience and not getting everything you want. You can't be a parent and still be selfish. You have to be
Mm.
open and look at things from others' perspective. And
Yeah, I think our children taught us more about communication. A good example is O2 used to say, he used to walk in a room and say, "My name's not Edison." And the children would wonder what he was talking about. I knew what he was talking about, but they didn't. So we had family circles and family units where they could tell us what they were thinking. We could tell us what we were thinking. And it sort of helped us to grow as individuals, to grow as parents, and as husband and wife.
Mm.
family meetings, that's a good ingredient
Family
uh,
meeting.
for a family. To get together weekly just to talk about things and see how everybody's feeling.
In your marriage, do you ever reflect, or you talked about this just a little bit, have you ever reflected on like other married people you've seen growing up? Have you ever taken any lessons from what you've seen observing in marriages growing up now that you're married?
Well, one of the things that I sort of, I don't know whether I requested it or I mentioned when O2 first talked to me about marriage was that my mother and father were married some 30 some years. They later divorced, but that was as an adult. But my aunt and uncle were married for 65 years, and they were very committed to each other. They were very committed to family, and I told them that if I was going to be married, I wanted to have that kind of marriage. I wanted to have a marriage that was no drama, peaceful, loving, and committed. And he promised that I would have that kind of marriage.
Beautiful.
And my parents, I observed when I was growing up, they never raised their voice at each other. They got things done. They were committed. They worked together. It was great to observe that.
All right, all right. Mama Koswa, is there any way you can sit back a little bit so people can see your beautiful face? Or maybe move it, lean it a little bit more. There you go. Perfect. I got you, bro. That was a request, so I didn't even. So that's a good thing. Politically, how did you all align politically? Because is there anything in your marriage like that needed to line up in order for you to be married to that person? Because sometimes people, it could be money, it could be politics, it could be religion, it could be or any of those things important in your marriage.
I believe it was our commitment to liberation. Yeah, our commitment to nation building. But I will tell you that initially, the first 5 years of our marriage, we couldn't talk about politics or religion because we had similar values but different views. And we had to learn how to really trust and respect the other person's view. And it took us probably about 5 years.
Right on. That makes sense.
So what that taught us was that marriage, seeing other people being married is nice. Reading about marriage is nice, but actually practical application is a whole nother, it's not even a ball game. It's a whole nother adventure. And we sort of look at it as a classroom.
Yeah, and that's the true test when you actually have to work with this person on a daily basis. We can see where your common values come out and how you're sharing things and sharing viewpoints.
And being compassionate to each other. I think that a lot of times we tend to be, as people, we tend to take really good care of our friends and other folks, and the people who are closest to us, we're very critical of and expect a lot of. And one of the things that I've come to learn and appreciate is that we didn't come from the same parents. We came from the same generation and had some of the same values, but being honest, compassionate, and understanding sort of helped us to grow to a whole nother level.
Right on. So with that being said, you guys have been married close to 4 decades. How did you adjust to the times as it were changing?
How did we adjust? Huh?
How do we adjust to the times that are changing?
Like from
you mean in
70s
society?
to the 80s, we had the crack era, we had, all the technology that came in. You guys have managed to be married for like close to 40 years, like you 2 years off of 40.
And yet we had to be flexible and open to change to keep up with things that were happening inside the house and outside the house. Different things that were affecting the children, things that we never had to worry about or were exposed to when we were growing up.
I think what has helped us is the flexibility that O2 talked about, but also paying attention. I believe that if you're aware of your surroundings and you cherish the relationship, you pay attention, so you don't take things for granted. So in terms of the children, we sort of had to stay above what was going on. So like they will tell you that my husband introduced them to hip hop and rap because when we heard it on the radio, we needed to know what they were listening to. So we had to find out more about it so that we could sort of guide and direct it. Technology, we're sort of neck and neck in terms of what they know and what we know.
Right on. Wow. So with that being said, when you all have disagreements or discourses, how do you resolve them? Or if you seek counsel, if you have seek counsel, with who and why did you choose that person to help you with a disagreement or whatever?
Well, we always had to talk things out. If we didn't see eye to eye on something, we had to keep talking. And that's the important thing, not to throw your hands up and say, forget it, but
Right on.
do your best to keep talking with each other. And we can provide a lot of our own counsel in that sense, that we're, willing to listen to each other and try to see things from the other person's perspective.
Right. And we sort of use the take a moment to reflect. Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that you need to think 7 times before you speak. So a lot of time, and actually we have very, very few disagreements because we don't really want drama. So one of the things that I've learned is to not hold on to things, and that when I'm ready, basically if I'm silent, he knows there's something going on. But when I'm ready to actually speak my mind, and to not be fearful, that if you really trust and love and have compassion, then the other person, if they're willing, can listen to you and see your point of view, you see their point of view. We learned early on not to do mind reading,
Right.
mystical mind reading, like, oh, he should know or she should know. It's like, how would you know if you're different people? You have different experiences. So we've learned that over the years.
Wow, that's beautiful. How do you all celebrate your marriage?
We talked about that. How do we celebrate our marriage?
Yearly observances with things like cards and maybe a little night out.
Well, you know what? We celebrate, we do I guess the perfunctory celebrations of anniversaries, that kind of thing. But I think we celebrate on a regular basis because I'm always telling him how much I love him. I still thank him for things that he does for me. He thanks me for things that I do for him. We sort of feel happy about the choices we make. So I think that's a celebration, that as opposed to, in addition to the going out or having a quiet evening or listening to music, I think we do it on a regular basis.
And being thankful is very important.
Wow, no, that's real talk. How do you, so this question, I'm rephrasing it a little bit, but in your marriage over time, what things did you improve on? What things did you eliminate out your marriage? Like, this doesn't work, so we don't do that anymore. These are the things that we work to get better at. Yeah, like, how do you, that's one of the questions.
Well, I learned to listen more, listen intently, and try to play down being judgmental, being open, being less selfish, thinking more of the unit instead of just what I wanted to do or what I thought was important.
Right on.
I believe we have a foyer in our house that has a lot of sunshine. And I came down the stairs one day and I thought about how O2 was not raised by my mother and I wasn't raised by his mother. So that we bring different things to the marriage, and that it's been a classroom, because I'm still learning, even though we've been together over 40 some years, I'm still learning things about him. And it sort of helped me to be compassionate, to be open. I've learned a lot. Matter of fact, we talked about biology, in that, when you're young, you learn about the colors of leaves and you learn about the shapes. And then as you grow, you learn more about the chemical makeup. As you grow, you learn more about how the leaves interact with the trees and the trees interact with the roots. Well, that's something like marriage, is that you might be in lust with someone, which is different than being in love. And then when you learn about what love actually is and the value of it, you begin to grow and learn at a different level. And I think that that's what's helped us and helped me anyway, to be consistent, to evaluate myself. Like we do a lot of criticism and self-evaluation, like, well, what did I do in that situation? Or he might say, well, what did I do in that situation, so that we can come to a midpoint.
Right.
Right.
What
What
advice?
can I do to make it better?
No, say it again. I'm sorry.
No, I said, what can I do to make it better?
Right on. Right on.
What's my input in all this?
So in the world that we live in now, you see a lot of, at least in some worlds, you see a lot of issues between men and women. Like it's always this battle for something, or it's almost like we're fighting to be balanced, or sometimes we're really out of balance. How do y'all stay in balance?
Well, keep the important thing in mind. The fact that we're a unit, and whatever we do should promote that unit and preserve it and work for each party.
Right.
I like that.
I think that impacting our children and realizing that we're supposed to be thinking about 7 generations ahead. So impacting our children, our grandchildren, and we've been more aware of how we're impacting people in the community. Like there are a lot of brothers and sisters who, young brothers and sisters who call us Mama and Baba. So we're aware of how we interact with each other and how that impacts the community. So if since nation building is a deep part of what we do, that sort of helps us to stay in balance. Like if we're, I don't know, we very rarely get out of balance. I think that keeps us balanced by knowing how we're impacting our children, our grandchildren, and brothers and sisters in the community.
Right on.
Those brothers and
I'm sorry.
those brothers and sisters in the community are watching.
Right.
Right on.
It's almost like, when you say, oh, would you do that with your parents watching? It's like, let me think about it.
That's so true. Like,
Let me think about it. Mm-hmm.
I love it. My final question is, what advice would you give single people who want to be married?
Take your time. There's a difference between being in lust and being in love. And examine what you're bringing to the unit. Is that it's not all about what you can get from that other person. It's about what you need to learn, what they need to learn, and that everyone that comes into your life provides some type of lesson for you. So you have to be able to make a commitment. And a lot of times I think folks are not willing to make a commitment, and folks operate out of fear. And, if you operate more out of self-assuredness and love, you get a great reward, I believe.
And you can't go into it with a list of qualities that are non-negotiable, because things are changing all the time, and your expectations for yourself and for your partner can change also.
I mean, there would be some basics. For us, it would be that we're in the Black state of mind and liberation, that we care about ourselves and we care about our children, that we want to be healthy and happy and whole. So a lot of the things that are out here in the society are not part of that value system. So I think that talking about those kinds of things, which most people who are single may not actually talk about. They don't necessarily talk about common values or read. We do a lot of reading, or he does a lot of reading. I do a lot of talking. But spending more time in looking at the long run as opposed to what's happening right now.
That really wasn't my last question, because your granddaughter just said that her grandparents rock. When you all were, when you first got married, did you ever imagine yourself being grandparents together like this? So I think that is so awesome. Because being grandparents is special.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
No,
I didn't think about being grandparents or great grandparents. We actually had 2 weddings. We had a community wedding where we had brothers and sisters in our home, and then we had a wedding at with Father Paul Washington in the church. And I don't think we thought about. I think we thought about raising the children, but for some reason we didn't think about grandchildren are children. We thought ideologically about 7 generations, but not necessarily us being grandparents. And now it's a whole different ball game. It's a joy, actually. It's a joy on one hand, and it's a challenge on the other hand, because we want to be able to protect them and work towards our liberation. So, instead of being fearful, we have to work hard at creating the kind of steps towards African sovereignty.
Right on. I'm still here. Sorry, that's all right. So you say that last part over again. You said you have to work towards African sovereignty. I think that's when my thing
Right.
froze real quick. So
Right, is that it's not enough to take them to the zoo or buy books for them. That we also have to be aware of what's going on in the community. Instead of being fearful or depressed or whatever, we have to work really hard towards manifesting or helping them to manifest African sovereignty.
right on, right on.
So the kinds of petty things, the kinds of little things that people fall out on is really minor to what our actual goal is. And if our goal is to be happy, healthy, and whole, and for our children and generations to come to be happy, healthy, and whole, then we have to be more mindful of, like you said, the ultimate goal. And if the ultimate goal is to have a strong family unit and to see that multiply over and over again, then where he left his socks, or who didn't put a top on something, or you didn't kiss me goodbye, those kinds of things are not worth falling out over.
Right on. Right on. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. These are my little intimate conversations I'm trying to have. I just think we need to hear from y'all more, because when you live in sometimes we don't always live in Cuba. I grew up in North Philadelphia partly in my life, and so I lived on the block where I knew everybody on the block. So I got to witness people that weren't related to me, but yet we were related because we were in community.
Right.
And sometimes we don't get to see that. We don't get to see, the wisdom and hear the wisdom of don't be tripping over no socks, or don't be having this long list and you ain't even got half the stuff on the list. And, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or you're not willing to change or to listen intently. I think one of my takeaways that keeps coming up in these interviews is that we are a unit. And when you marry someone, you are a unit. And so you're not doing this Western concept of you got to have $1 million, I got to have $1 million, we going jet set across the world. It's like when you're building something, you got to look and see how y'all blend together, the things you may have to change over time. You guys are such a great example of, where a lot of us want to be one day. To grow older with someone.
We're still a work in progress.
No, it's beautiful. To grow older with someone, to be a grandparent, to be a great grandparent, those are, some people say in this society that we have lost the ability to dream. And sometimes when I'm talking with people, sometimes you could hear it. So I'm always impressed when people's like, I didn't think about it, but I'm so grateful that I lived to see it. Because that's kind of how you get there. And sometimes when you can dream, it's because you can see it somewhere and be like, I can envision that for myself because I seen it in someone else.
Yes.
So y'all gave me that lesson this morning. I mean, you guys are just,
good.
It's so beautiful. That's my California. You guys, it's like, no, this is my elders. So please excuse me for saying it like that. But thank you so much for taking the time, Ia and Baba. Thank you so much. And
thank you for doing this project.
This time.
Yeah, we appreciate what you're doing because we do exist. That Black loving families and Black loving couples do exist, and those folks who are in doubt, they need to actually do some homework. Homework.
Right.
I'm big on that.
All right.
Enjoy your day.
Yes. Peace and love.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll be before.
Thank you.